meeting to order. Take a roll call vote. Director Betty Doherty.
Here.
Director Donna McAleer.
Here.
Director Bob Lux is here. Director Dale Walker.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. And Director Mike Wise is in Nashville at the Grand Ole Opry. So he is not here. Okay. Back to the agenda. We will begin with an invocation and the pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to pray, to work diligently for the common good and in the best interest of those we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen.
Amen.
If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge to the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any comments from the public today, Shelley? I didn't see any. Very good. Agenda item 4, request for adjustments. Mr. Mooney?
Nothing this month.
Nothing this month. Excellent. We now move to the consent agenda, which runs from page 1 through 15. Give you a second to review that if there's any questions.
Move that we accept the consent agenda as
Submitted.
submitted. Thank you for that word.
We have a second to that.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Doherty and a second by Director McAleer to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstain. Motion passes. Very good. Okay. Agenda item 9, review and act on the district's draft fiscal year 2024. That was submitted in a separate document with an insert. I assume that's going to be Maureen and General Manager Peterson.
Yes, last month we presented the draft budget to you. Before you have the updated and final memo, which is similar to the one you received, and then an updated budget, which actually has no real appreciable differences from the one that was presented for your particular district. I think we added one minor thing in for lead and copper, but engineering, but that's it. So, and then the water and sewer rates we presented last month as well for proposed.
Is being as that is the new rate is on this budget, is this a combined thing, or do we have another vote for the rate? Holly?
We have separate vote.
Separate vote.
Amendments to the RNS 12 and 13. That'll probably be in October, November.
Okay.
The budget was created with.
But it's based on 0.146.
Well, that's the tax rate.
Yeah.
So yes, it's with that tax rate, and it also includes approximately 6% on the water sewer rate.
I hate to go backwards, but I didn't hear exactly what you said right at the end. You said the line item that has been changed has to do with the copper and iron. Is that what you
Lead
said?
and copper.
Lead and copper. Okay, and that's in the engineering. I just didn't hear where it was.
On the 10 line for the second line down, last month, that 26,675 was about 19,000. We've done some discussions with LJ and a couple other
Mhm.
firms just to kind of talk about rough
And you're
numbers.
looking at this side, the
Yes.
tan side.
Line 5300.03 engineering and technical services. That line item was slightly adjusted by 7,000.
Oh, it's a second from the top. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'd committed it to memory, and so I wanted to be sure I could change that number. Thank you.
Is it 18,000?
No, it's the
26.
budget is 26,675.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually lower than the projected last year. What the actual from? Well, of course, we didn't have this.
Yeah, they're not, I mean, on that particular line, they're not apples to apples. If you look at last year and this year, different things come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was it. That was everything else.
Yeah, we scaled this pretty well, I believe. This is an action item. Are we
Vote on it today.
voting to approve, Brian?
That's correct.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay,
I'm on it. No, I'm on
I'd
it.
accept a motion to approve the budget. I'll make such a motion. Anybody second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by myself and a second by Director Doherty. Further discussion on this matter?
Does this differ from this memorandum budget?
Is that the how-to? The memorandum is
This
how
is
y'all came to yours?
Proposed final 2024 operating budget.
Yeah, it's basically just a summary of what was in the draft last month, and then this month
Okay.
it's now what's in the final. Or what we call final until you become final once you.
The bulk water fees going up 2%.
I'm sorry.
Is it, if there's in here, the bulk water fees are going up
Yes, that was
2%.
presented over the last couple of months. Esther had presented that. As a reminder, the admin fee is going down from 718 to 7.
This is a good summary just on the last page for constituents to take a look at, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that kind of highlights
Mhm.
the adjustments on the water rates.
Mhm.
Sewer rates, absolutely.
And so it really basically works out to less than $100 a year is what I would tell my folks to ask.
Well, and keep in mind, because John will report on, John or Tori will report on later, but we're getting a lot of misinformation out there about water rates and about
Yeah.
bills, and some of which aren't even in the Woodlands.
Right.
Well, I have, if you ever go on Nextdoor, and I only go on Nextdoor to be able to see how many people are complaining about water, and they really don't have a clue, and I wouldn't dream of correcting them. Not that income.
I've been confronted by a few in the community that says, well, why did you raise the rates? And we hadn't raised the retail rate
Well,
since 2014.
I think we can run, I believe SJRA does run ads in there. I mean, they're selling everything from shoes to lipstick on there. I don't know why we can't put the water rates on there.
Well, ironically, just over the last couple hours, I've been talking with Esther and staff about us helping taking some of the messaging that they already do.
Yeah.
On the wholesale rate, on
Mhm.
GRP, all those things, and helping push some of that out through our resources.
But I think we've really got a huge possibility. I mean, I don't know if there's a negative to next door. It just seems like to me, there are a lot of people that don't do anything else but look at that. And they're not very well informed. And so all the avenues that we use are great. I wish I thought that our constituents were, using those resources. I just worry. I see that it's increased though, so maybe I'm all wrong. They're not as smart as me is what I'm saying.
Can we
Bob.
finish the budget, please? We have a motion and we have a second. We're
always
in this
trying to advertise.
discussion about the budget.
Yeah.
And if there's further discussion on that matter, we can resume that. If not, I'll call the vote. Are you?
We vote for it.
So you comfortable?
Yeah, I think I'm
Okay.
comfortable. Yes.
Okay,
I
good.
was just looking at
I was
it.
getting her,
Oh.
so she'd have time to look at
Okay.
Thank you for your thought.
it. I am.
All in favor of approval of the budget, signify by saying aye. All opposed, abstain, motion passes. Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Nextdoor is a website or
It's a social network thing
Facebook, but
for neighborhoods,
just for the neighborhood?
except it's very wide ranging. It's not just the
but
neighborhood.
it tends to concentrate on
Just the
Areas.
locality,
areas near you.
like Indian Springs or Sterling.
It
Even,
goes all the way to Montgomery, Magnolia,
Sometimes Tomball and Montgomery.
all over the place.
A
Oh, I
lot of
see.
it's in the woodlands, if you're living in the woodlands.
Is there a moderator?
Sometimes there are
Yes, but-
moderators for certain neighborhoods.
Officially, there are, but, what we see, and so I think John reported last month or the month before that we have gone in and joined as a corporate add-on. We don't engage necessarily in all of the threads. But what we wanted to do is monitor the information that we're seeing, and then we can push out a general message.
Wait, I'm glad to know.
Go to the website, to go to the website.
Or however.
Yeah, to get information.
The problem that we've seen, and this is ever since it existed or was created, anyone can say anything,
Mhm,
whether it's true or not,
mhm.
or whether it's factual or not, or whatever, misleading.
And mostly it's
It's
unkind.
difficult in a forum like that
Mhm.
for some of that information to get challenged,
Mhm.
because others that may not be aware of dive into the discussion, and then all of a sudden you've got this big message that was born out of something that wasn't factual to begin with. So that's why it's important that when we see those things, that we pivot our messaging to make sure that we're combating some of that misinformation, whatever it is. Could be,
Yep.
it's not always that way, but
Like you said, this would be something very good to point them to.
Yeah, there's another one in here about the comparison of the water rates and SJRA's bulk water rates are lower than anybody's. Great picture, red columns.
Mhm.
That would be good. Just, you don't have to say anything. It's a picture. Be great to have people to see that because they are really giving SJRA a hard time because they've never heard of them. They don't know what they do and they've got to be bad because they've never heard of them.
Agenda item, we can put that, seriously,
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. I mean, we can have this as an agenda item for next month if you'd like to. Maybe we get a little more background and,
Not
see
a bad idea.
what we can do. Very good.
Bad idea.
Agenda item 10, conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a 2023 tax rate. I believe that's on page 13 of our meeting packet.
Mhm.
Are we doing that at this moment, Mr. Yates?
Isn't that today? Aren't we doing it?
Yes, ma'am.
Public hearing. We'll take our vote.
Okay. Is this?
Yep, so we'll go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting and open the public hearing for any comments from the public. We do have a copy of the notice that was published in the Courier, correct, on page 13 of your packet. It does reflect last year's rate, this year's rate, the other statutorily required information. And with that, we will open it up to comments from the public. Any comments from the public on the proposed tax rate? Being none, President, you can close the public hearing.
Okay, public hearing is closed.
We'll move
Yeah.
on to item number 11.
Okay, very good. I got you. I'm following you now. Okay. Consider an act upon the levy of the 2023 tax rate with adoption of an order in connection therewith.
Reflect the proposed tax rate that was discussed last month, which is a debt service rate of 9 cents, a maintenance and operation tax rate of 0.056038, or a cumulative tax rate of 0.146038. And that generates exactly 3.5%. So as a developed district, you're not exceeding the rollback tax rate.
Excellent. And that is a slight, ever so slight reduction from last year's tax rate. And hearing that, I would accept a motion to accept or not.
So moved.
Director Doherty makes a motion to accept the tax rate as submitted. A second, anyone?
I second.
A second by Director McAleer. Further discussion on this matter? Hearing none. Call a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Brian,
Sir.
for leading us through that. Where are we for number 12? Is number 12 yours too,
Yeah.
Brian?
It also relates to the tax rate. This is to update the district information form and the notice to purchasers that is records collection 2023 tax rate.
Is there, I mean, this is actually,
Action to approve the amendment to the district information form included in the property record.
do we have this one?
Yes, it's attached there behind the tax rate levy. It's got, it requires 3 signatures from any three.
Got it.
directors.
Oh,
We
okay,
didn't sign it.
yeah. Should we,
Should we look at the?
yeah, I believe it should be reviewed, huh? Oh, here you go. That's the one you're looking, you're mentioned, Brian.
Yeah, this is an annual item.
Just the figures that have to be updated and the dates that have to be updated and so forth based on actions that we've taken.
This refers to the other document if, just to give everybody a chance to glance at it, is this the right one to call?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Take a moment if anybody need to take a walk, Dale, and
Oh, good, thank you.
because you're fourth in line here.
Well, I'm just looking to see.
The only thing that changed on Exhibit B is the tax rate. The rest of the information in the form is the same as what you adopted
right
when we
Mhm.
adopted the new form. I think it was a
Okay.
month ago.
Very
Just
good.
have to check, make sure Brian isn't supposed to.
And you know, absolutely, yeah.
I think we talked last month about how it was kind of silly to have to consider this same document 2 months in a row. But we had to adopt the form last month because of the effective date of the legislative change that had the new form like notice to purchasers. So we adopted the new form last month and we said, we'll be coming right back to you the following month to amend it again to change the tax rate. So this is that second step.
Head of it, that's, I guess.
Oh, we have to sign this.
There's 2 forms, and when this
That
comes
one,
back,
this
we sign that too.
Do I let him read this before I sign it?
It's really in conjunction with that.
Oh, it goes with that, okay.
Hmm?
Is that 25 cents?
That's the maximum that was authorized prior
Not more
to,
than.
election 10 years ago.
Okay,
We're well under that maximum.
for this. I don't remember
That one of 05, yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
that's the maintenance and operation.
Okay, that one,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. This is the same, oh, this is just two copies.
Correct.
Bring this back to you.
Okay.
You just have to sign it now and we're done with it.
Well,
We have to vote on
Or
it.
do we have to
Yeah,
vote on it?
there was a motion and a second. This is in
I guess I
discussion.
made the motion, didn't I?
Yes, ma'am. That's a long time ago.
It was.
I forgot too.
The whole couple of seconds.
Okay. We have completed our discussion on this matter, I believe, unless there's further discussion required. Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Good, sir. Okay, agenda item 13, receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach. Pages 16, okay. 16 through 23. Are there any questions that we have for Mr. Meeks regarding that topic?
On our packet, page 16, the graph, it says the Woodlands Monthly Operations Report, August 2023. And on the mix, on the blend, could you comment on the,
here.
could you comment on the May, June, July, August, where the groundwater, surface water diverged? Is that due to our horrible drought that we had?
Yes,
Okay. And that affected your operations pretty severely,
it
right?
did. So GRP, excuse me, GRP kind of maxed out about 27 million gallons a day.
Ground, your
I'm sorry, the surface water maxed out.
surface water, okay.
Right. So I had about 27 million gallons to send to all 7 participants in Montgomery County.
Okay.
And so surface water is basically supposed to meet the daily demand, and the peak is by groundwater.
So let's say somebody is losing their yard or their trees or stuff, and they're using a lot more water, and you need to hit that surge. So the demand is there. You go to the groundwater is the makes up the surge on demand because you got the wells in place and you're able to go.
Exactly.
And then the evaporation, probably the lake was lower and everything. And
Like it's about 199 of this.
yeah, refresh my memory.
201 is full. So it's about 2 foot.
Okay, so that's not too bad,
It's not bad at all considering everything's
Yeah.
been going on.
especially the 3 to 4 months of extreme weather.
But
Okay.
even though we did have that peak on page 17 towards the top, the
Yeah.
budget was a 50-50 blend. We actually hit 52% ground, 48% surface. So we're plus or minus 10%.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty dramatic, that graph though. I mean,
Yeah. We could scale it from 0 to 100. That way you can see it.
Chris, I thought that we always used more surface water in the summer than groundwater.
No, in the summertime, it's always more ground than surface. Just because demand. So the demand in the Woodlands hit about 35 million gallons a day. I'd have to send all of GRP to the Woodlands and still have to make up the wells.
So, okay, I kind of thought that was the backstory, is that currently the plant isn't geared to make the required amount that would be needed.
Correct.
It's not running at full capacity.
Right.
Got it. That's what I thought, but I thought, my gosh, we're all considered or concerned with aquifer depletion. And here in the most serious time, we're
Confident.
pumping at the hardest. you know?
Yeah.
But, we did run the plant the highest we've ran it since about 2017.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah.
ran pretty
The
good.
guys did a great job getting that thing maximized to efficiency while yet keeping it cost effective.
It's a balance.
It's a tremendous tremendous accomplishment.
The aquifer level testing is, it's now. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's all been blurred.
And when you say aquifer testing, one aquifer or all of them?
All of them in the woodlands.
Mhm.
And so, well, the two aquifers in the woodlands, but the 38 wells in the woodlands, we go and we monitor the
Our wells.
our wells.
Right, gotcha.
And we compare those. We do it every March and every September.
Mhm.
And then we just say, okay, and, just trying to track and see where the aquifer
Right.
is going up or down.
Mhm. And do we get any readout from the other wells that have been drilled all around? I mean, I hear everybody tell I'm gonna drill my own well.
We get USGS,
Mhm.
but besides that, we don't get anything else.
Mhm.
Are all of those 38 wells operating? I didn't think so. Yeah.
I want to say there's 4 or 5 that are out of service due to mechanical issues.
With the exometers that are being talked about, to measure, would that help us any, or is that just strictly for Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District?
It's mainly for them, but it'll help us. It'll
It
go
would
over
help
the
us.
aquifer levels and the PIM
Mhm.
sites and everything. The extensometers due to funding have been pushed off
Mhm.
for another amount of time. So,
Very good. Anything else on item 13?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody from on item 13?
Just one thing to note, is we've talked a lot about the AC water lines
Mhm.
recently.
Mhm.
Just the other large program we have going on is the wastewater plant.
Mhm.
So October 24th, we have our next all-mud meeting to discuss an update on that. So that's 5 PM at Woodlands, Estuary Woodlands office.
That's where
It's just a typo in the meeting packet because it says 6 in the meeting, so
Okay, so.
remember that,
October 24th.
24th.
5 PM.
5
Yeah,
PM.
I circled it.
And that's at the training
Oh, it does.
facility where you held it before.
And we'll give you another reminder next month. But I do want to get it on your else calendars.
It would be helpful.
So primarily, we're going to be discussing where we're at overall and master plan layout and updated cost estimates. So encourage
Very good.
y'all to attend.
Consider an act on additional research for San Jacinto River Authority for asbestos cement water lines. Mr. Meeks?
So a couple things. First off, in case you want to know what asbestos or AC pipe looks like, I'm gonna set it over here. I was passing it around before, but I started thinking some people may not want that around them.
Mhm.
It's safe, it's secure, just don't unseal it. I got it taped. But if you want to see what asbestos AC pipe is like, this is a piece of. So if you want to see it, it's here. Second item, on page 34 is a good recap of what Ed talked about in the trustees. To save the 30, 45 minutes of discussion, kind of get the punchline, if you will. What we're
Page,
looking for
34.
okay.
is we recommended putting a pause on any construction or further design of the AC water lines. And moving forward with a condition assessment of the AC water line, starting with the hiring and advertising for a consultant to help us develop the condition-based programming test.
And that's for the 3.5 million testing of everything, right? Is that what you're talking about?
3.5 million in the 4 years is an estimate. The
Uh-huh.
hope is that we can get the consultant on board and they can actually refine that to a truer number.
Mhm.
And so, yes, that's what we're talking about. So what we're looking for is not a vote, but a general consensus of MUD 60, just to say, yes, we're in favor of going forward to redefine this.
So as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about replacing the lines and there was a schedule to replace those lines. And then there was some concern about whether they really needed to be replaced so early. And so that's what the testing is about. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's $3.5 million we get to spend for that, right?
Estimated 3.5 million based off a high level, we
Mhm.
expect it to be refined.
So the vote is going to be to approve the 3.5 million. No,
So there's no vote today.
Oh, okay.
We're
I
just
thought I
trying
heard
to
you
get,
say vote.
general
Okay.
thought,
General
discussion from-
consensus
Okay.
of opinion, whether it's worthwhile or
Testing
something
would be
to.
very good.
Do you have an idea on what consultants you're looking at to hire yet?
I'll let you explain.
So, we would be putting out a solicitation, a request for qualifications, and reviewing those submittals from various consultants, local, national, that would be coming in, putting in their qualifications, and we have a set evaluation criteria to base it solely on qualifications. It's not, we're not allowed to look at costs for professional services like that.
One thing to add though is, one of the key things is we don't want any firm to come in here and say they can do this. We don't want a firm that's never done this before. They have to show
Mm-hmm.
and prove that they've done this type of work somewhere in the country
Mm-hmm.
quite a few times.
And
It would be an expert qualified in this specific.
So I have what Director Walker brought in, I think in June, was it?
Yes.
Where there was a couple of articles on that had done testing. That some associations, ICA was one of them, can't
Mhm.
remember.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you would contact those organizations and ask if they had any recommendations of who to hire.
We could, that's part of what we go to the expert for, and we just say, yeah, what do we do? But for the actual consultant, we would have to put it on the street regardless.
And I guess
For a bid.
For
Yeah.
bid, yes.
Bids. Proposed.
So essentially, it's
Money, no bid.
Okay.
qualification based.
Selection.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, but to expand on your comment, one thing we do ask for is, the firm to provide 5 similar projects, that they've done in the past,
And here's their
including,
results.
including references. So we could be calling, other agencies across the nation as a reference check, which would be kind of similar to what I think you just suggested.
So you would go to published referee journals where they have written it. And then there may be studies that are not published through another agency, another water.
Yeah,
So the more you get on that, you could then decide technically who you're going to hire for this.
Yes, specifically for asbestos concrete. heights.
there's a lot of projects that consultants are doing that never.
Never get published, correct, yeah. So you would do this, you would contact that like Fort Worth or Dallas if they had it done.
Yeah.
And then would they provide the reports? They should provide reports to you, right? It's, but they could.
Really,
I mean,
we're asking, just general reference checks, did they perform well on a project? Did they meet schedule? How did they communicate?
Yeah.
Um,
I always like the one president used to say, trust but verify, somebody can say, yeah, they did a good job, but I'd like to see the proof in the pudding. I don't know. I mean, that shouldn't be classified. That shouldn't be proprietary.
Public information is not confidential. If it's not accepted under the Public Information Act, then yes, it would be.
So they could say,
That private property?
Yeah, that's very fact specific, whether a particular document meets an exception to the Public Information Act.
I mean,
so they could get a copy of the report or the consultant.
Well, again, unless there was a exception for confidentiality under the Public Information Act and that political subdivision claimed that exception to prevent disclosure.
Yes.
So you're not gonna know.
Yeah. And I don't know, when you start doing public information acts and, under that, trying to get the documents, we could wait a while because it's strictly up to the municipality how long it takes, unless Texas laws are
Well,
different.
Texas requires you to respond within 10 days of receiving a Public Information Act request or else.
Either yes or no.
Or else your ability to claim an exception is waived.
Mhm.
If an exception is waived, if exception is claimed, that triggers a whole process of having to go to the Attorney General's office,
Mhm.
request an opinion to confirm if the information is accepted or not, unless it was an opinion on it or determination that it is clearly within a particular exception. You go back and forth on that. The AG decides and issues an opinion about whether the information is accepted from disclosure or not. So there's a
Well,
very regimented
We have
process.
other indicators that I understand that we were looking at to even be talking about starting on Woodlands Parkway, the age and other indicators like brakes and whatever else, you know,
Right.
that you were looking at to, put with the information that we would get from a tester.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's basically right now, let's just assume we have 50% data, 50% assumptions.
Mhm.
With this testing, those assumptions maybe go down to 25, 30, 40%. So what we're doing is just increasing the data, reducing the assumptions.
Mhm. Mhm.
But right now, what they're
Good
looking
job solving
for
problems.
is communication from each of the mud boards. If you support this general process and potentially get a request for qualifications for basically somebody who would be the quarterback, an expert to do a quarterback that would come up with a plan and then go forward with getting whoever is going to do the actual testing and all of it. It's got to start with do we have support for authority to go and solicit promotions to quarterback as an expert in this field.
Right, because the testing could show we don't need to replace the pipes at 50 years. Maybe we can go to 70 years. And then save a few $100 million, like right now.
But the decision to do the actual testing would come back to the districts. This is just to get a consultant to come up with a plan for testing that would then come back and be presumably included in either a budget or some other expenditure that would come before the trustees.
My personal opinion is I'm just skeptical of the testing because I don't know what it's gonna prove.
Yeah.
And that's issue number one. And the thing that really bothers me is the 4-year duration.
To set it
You
back
know,
that far.
we live in a very uncertain world and this is a very uncertain business. And as I mentioned to General Manager Peterson before the meeting, said if you knew precisely what day a line was gonna break, you'd be there the day before.
Right.
And you'd fix it.
Mhm.
We don't live in that kind of a situation. And I had this discussion with one of the other directors. And just to put things into a perspective, we are putting, or not we are putting, but at risk in Metro Center is $3.2 billion worth of certified tax value. Correct me if I go off the rails here in trying to explain this, Jeannie. But that's real property and that's taxes that are coming in. And if we do have a catastrophic failure and we put $3.2 billion worth of tax value at risk, this has a big impact on our community, on the township, all of us. And if, just as an example, and again, correct me if I go off the rails here, we had that minor break around Tinseltown that Ed mentioned the other week. It was researched by this other director, and for 24 hours, we had $1.26 billion worth of taxable property at risk. And what in conjunction with this, what is being proposed is, because a lot of this discussion has been led primarily by the residential MUDs, that this particular director recommended that those of us who have a foot in both worlds, residential as well as a foot in Metro Center, and that is Metro Center MUD and MUD 67 and MUD 60, that the presidents meet independently with a number of people, General Manager Peterson, Attorney Yates, SJRA, Baird and Associates, and a few others I forgot. Can you refresh my memory? Who else was on that list of invitees, if you would? Yeah. And to try and figure out if there's a way, because Attorney Yates has been quite specific that this is something that because of the way that the documents are structured, that this requires a full agreement by all of the MUDs to proceed. So we're just going to research if there's another way to look at this from a business perspective as opposed to exclusively a residential perspective, to try and accelerate this thing and not have that property at risk.
And that was my next question though, was the 4 years, the estimate to do the testing, where'd that come from?
So the 3.5 million and the 4 million or 4 years came from a consultant before. We said high level budgetary estimates. What are you looking for?
Right.
I don't think it would take 4 years. We've kind of made it internal just to say how long, and I think 2 to 3 years would be an extreme condition.
Too fast. 2 to 3 years is unlikely to be
2
able
to 3 years is likely, 4 years is unlikely.
Okay.
And it would be some sort of phased approach to the sense,
Where's this most needed?
where do we start the testing? It's not like you're gonna go out all
Mhm.
one day and do testing across the woodlands, so you gotta start somewhere. So our current thought is just, start at the more critical lines, North Town Center, start there and see what the data comes back.
Six Pines, wasn't that it? Or
Six Pines.
Six Pines.
You could do that too.
Where all that development's about. to
Wasn't Six Pines gonna go ahead anyway because of the need to upsize?
Six Pines is currently still part of the overall town center water line.
Mhm.
There has been discussions from other mud directors on us figuring that out. And I think that's out there to discuss.
But isn't that in our mind? Part
Six
of,
Pines?
yeah, all the,
This particular section of line is not,
It's not
It's
in
not.
East Shore.
it's in Metro Center.
Okay.
In
It's in
the
that-
larger discussion of testing, no testing, go forward town center, don't go forward, that whole discussion. And as noted in the summary, trustee summary, is that there were a couple board members that suggested, and keep in mind that town center has essentially been designed. A part of that project, a lot of it's on Grogan's, but there's a small portion of it on Six Pines that in addition to being contemplated as part of the design because of AC, another aspect of that particular section is that it needs to be upsized from a 12-inch to a 16-inch for operational efficiencies. And so the concept that was thrown out amongst a couple of trustees was maybe we consider testing, perhaps start with town center testing that area, but then in addition to going forward with the Six Pines portion of the project that's been designed already.
Just upsizing that.
Because that was the other reason why to go ahead and going forward with that, not putting that piece on pause. As they've just suggested, putting that project on pause, but putting it on pause, but taking the Six Pines piece out and doing it. That's just what the discussion was at the trustee meeting. There wasn't any decision.
my concern would be the 13-story building that they're building along Six Pines and Reba Road where I live. I mean, that's gonna be residential and lots of people and lots of toilets. And so it seems to me that, and it'll go up quicker than we can imagine. The trees are down, so. I mean, seems like to me we ought to get busy with that. I mean, because they're all designed, there's no waiting period on any of that.
Understand your comment, Dale, and the comment of others about, that like to see some testing. I'm just a little skeptical. I'm not sure what it's gonna prove.
Well,
Because as it's been explained by several of the operations professionals, that what occurs here may be 180-degree different than what is occurring over here in the next pipe section.
mhm.
It's just too random. There are too many variables in place that can potentially have a very negative effect on an entire pipeline. And it's not a uniform condition.
So when they run the test, do they run a device through the cement pipe and do sonic testing, or do they do spot checks along the pipes?
Isn't there 3 types of testing though?
Could be both. So you could do acoustical testing over a larger 700-foot segment.
Mhm.
Provides an average, essentially the condition of the pipe. But we also are considering, doing more destructive testing, pulling a pipe segment out of the ground at certain locations and sending that out to a lab for a whole gamut of
Mhm.
more physical tests.
Do we know the previous example that was used in California? How long did it take them to test their pipes?
From Mesa?
Yeah.
they did do both. They first went in and did the non-destructive acoustical testing,
Right,
and then based on those results.
then they spot checked it. Right, they spot checked where to do destructive, right?
I think it was over a couple of years.
Right.
Keep in mind with the acoustic though, go along with what Bob was saying, it is an average.
Correct.
So you do 700 foot, if most of it's good, it's gonna average out to be good. Also, there are some concerns with it going through pipes, fittings, valves, various things. It's not a cure-all to everything. There are concerns with acoustic testing. And if you go with destructive testing, you are getting 10 foot out of a mile is what's recommended at this point. So you still have to make some big assumptions and extrapolate it over other items. It's not perfect in any case.
Also, just to finalize my perspective on it, Don, I appreciate your comment about spending a little bit now to maybe have more information and not expend funds to a far greater extent. If General Manager Peterson could share the conversation that you had with some of your colleagues recently about price escalations, contractor availability, material availability, and so forth, where if we wait 4 years before we start rolling on this, this could just, the costs could be exponentially higher than they are today. Is there anything you can?
I mean, what I'm hearing, the current market is pretty volatile in terms of being able to find bidders, pricing volatility, those types of things. I mean, in general, just in my career, prices go up regardless of the current market. I mean, the cost of sure, the cost of projects goes up every year. So it would stand to reason that, you know, the longer you wait, the more. I mean, I think yesterday's report at the Almads said that just by putting it off 10 years, that the 200 million goes to 300 or 400 million.
So just to go back, we put a proposal in
Bad spot.
Yeah.
We go right, we're wrong. We go
doesn't
left,
get-
we're
I
wrong.
don't know of any construction projects that get cheaper over time.
past 6 years, it's gone from 100 million to 200 million,
Yeah. Well, my
6 years.
6 years,
My
17 to today.
experience has been to, in, governmental work that I've done is to efforts have been made to save money that ended up in the long run costing us money. And a perfect example here is the 2019 school bond did not pass because everybody thought, oh, it's way too much money. And they took out a whole bunch of that. I don't remember the exact amount. But what they took out were the air conditioners on the top of the schools. And so everybody passed it after that, when that amount was taken out. Well, now in this bond that is about to go ahead, they're having, what they did without the air conditioners, they ended up not having parts to replace them. They had to rent units to put on the top of the school. I mean, the expense was far greater than it would have been if we just passed the bond and put the air conditioners on there, and the bond that would be paid out over a long extended time. And now they're going to have to do it at 4 times the cost of 2019. So it was an effort to not overspend, and I understand that. But, we cut off our nose to spite our face, we would say, back where I come from. So that's my concern. And I've just, seen that happen too many times, where we're gonna save money because we're spending too much money. But it unfortunately, in the long run, has not worked out that way.
Does that give you a clear picture?
And also,
Of this board's.
and also, if I may, and you can tell me, no, we're not going to do this right now, Betty. But, your background for all of your career has been in water, has it not? I mean, I've worked with children and abused, teenagers. So what do I know, except they drink a lot of water? So I think your experience, unless you lied to me, Scott, is worth something.
Well, I certainly don't have the credentials or experience that General Manager Peterson or Mr. Meeks or others at SJRA. It's a highly talented group of people. And as I said about
37 years.
yeah.
See, I gotta watch you. You might be making this stuff up.
As I said in an earlier conversation about our financial status in this MUD, because we have rarely overruled professional advice by Baird. And we have a very respectable tax rate. We have very respectable reserves, and we're an MUD that's in sound financial condition. Why? We come and go, but the trained professionals have led us and given us guidance and direction, and we've accepted that more often than not. We've questioned it, of course, but we've accepted it. And so I put my hands and my trust in the professionals, like the group at SJRA, the group that we have here, and the group that is in our Woodlands division. You guys know how this system performs. You hear the bumps in the night with the various pieces of equipment and so forth, and you go, worry about that bump. Not so much that bump. Well, pipelines unfortunately don't bump in the night. They explode. Yeah. Anyways, do we need to raise hands or go forward on this, or just you take this bit of open discussion, open and candid discussion, and
I think Director Lux's concern is it's going to go over 4 years. If could they condense that a little bit, or is that impossible?
Oh, it's definitely possible. This is, like Dan had said, we're looking at a phased approach. And so it may extend overall over 4 years, right? Because you can do additional testing as you go, but it's going to be in different phases potentially.
And the high priority could be hit now.
Exactly. Town
That-
center, Six Pines.
That's not gonna take 4 years.
No, that could be.
So that's gonna take 6 months.
Correct. Well, I don't know, just because the consultant, yeah, I mean, 6 to 12 months, I'd say 3 months. But
Well, that would be
So-
better.
can you tender a contract in that amount of time and get it?
legally, no.
No.
Then you can
No
also
way.
Don't
gauge,
worry about, we have an expert in law here. He could navigate those
but you can gauge
bumps in the road.
what you find at that area to what you might likely find in other areas of the Woodlands.
Correct. Entirely. Now, just keep in mind, it's 3 to 4 months for us to get the RFQ out there, get it to our board for approval and everything else. That's 3 to 4 months minimum from when we move forward. After that, they have to get the kickoff, get on board. You're talking, I mean, if they're quick, 3 months, possibly even 6 months to come back with any type of recommendation. So you're 9 months in before you even start any testing, minimum on a good day. So that's why you're looking at 4 years. There is just some buildup to get to where you need to go to.
So that's why we need to start right away if we're going to do the testing.
Sooner rather than later would be good.
Mhm.
If we would have done this in 2017, you'd have all your answers by now.
Mhm.
That's a good understanding.
Spend enough time on this one. Good, very good. Thank you.
One other thing, just want all directors to understand is we have uploaded a lot of documents to the Google Drive. Number of AWWA journal articles, Water Research Foundation, peer-reviewed articles, appendices, and then an overall response to, I think it was like 35 questions we received from various fund directors. So I do want to let you know, we have provided a ton of resources for y'all to go through as you see fit.
For us who that are computer challenged.
Yes, Eric.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say, ask Shelby.
If I found it, anybody. could
Well,
find it.
no,
Except I need to know the title of it from that young man. Oh, it's taken me, how long have I been here? 3 or 4 years? I just have gotten in there, you
so the
know.
Google Drive is the one that I've gotten permissions to go to.
Shelley can get you right in there. Just ask her.
See, I have it all written down here because like do this, then do that.
The Q&A references a lot of links and a lot of documents. All those, as Dan mentioned, all those documents are in there
Okay.
with it.
And if I have a problem, I can make a phone call. Okay. I like that personal, that help
We
here.
got you.
I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, everyone, for the candid discussion. Moving to agenda item 15, receive an update status on Bear Branch, Panther Branch, Research Forest Drive, Drainage Improvements Project. Good afternoon, Brad.
We had a progress meeting on September 12th. Mike participated in it. The gist of it was that LJA has completed their draft alternatives analysis. So we talked about it. They had already delivered it to us. We spoke about it. We're now in the phase, both Woodlands Water and SJRA. We're assembling our comments to provide back to LJA. In addition, there was a decision made on the fly that there's going to be some additional modeling that LJA is going to do for the project as well. And then we also briefly spoke on the spillway analysis. They've also delivered a draft memorandum on that, and SJRA alone, and that one is reviewing and will provide comments. So overall, it was a good meeting. I think they've made good progress. Your one pager, I'm sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. Your one pager is on page 22. And again, like we've told you several meetings in a row, the billing is lagging from the progress of the schedule. There are a number of reasons for that. I think we'll catch up next month because a lot of the heavy lifting was done in the month of August. So we'll see that catch up.
Overall goal, it was never catch up and we'll come in under.
Yeah.
You've lumped in with the drainage project in a couple of things.
There was a small portion of owner-directed services within the contract with LJA. And it's those services that we utilize to take a cursory look at a fundamental big picture look at the spillway and how it would coincide with some of the modeling they've done, what the configuration would need to look like, not to have any adverse effect, either water surface elevation downstream or upstream.
Isn't this the project that we had federal funds secured from Representative Crenshaw? How does that work? I mean, is that money dispersed or must the work be performed and then you pay and then you're reimbursed?
On the federal funds?
Yes, sir.
Through the core, I'll probably let Dan address it, but it's my understanding that it's a get reimbursed. You put the money up front and get reimbursed. And
The money's coming through the Corps of Engineers. We are currently coordinating with them on all the paperwork agreements, et cetera. And it's set up more as a reimbursement. For that project, I will say we have selected a consultant to do the actual dam and the upstream soil cement, and we're currently coordinating with them on a scope of work. So we do plan to get that kicked off here.
So how long normally, I don't know, there is a normal, is there the turnaround between after the expenditure of funds by the participants and then the reimbursement from the federal government through this process?
Wow.
A year, probably.
Minimum.
I think it's.
I hear all kinds of horror stories, you know.
I think if I could interject, I think we're in a positive place in that this is a much more expedited way of going through the Corps than we're all probably used to. And I think the first go around, the first couple of pay reimbursements will probably be getting used to each other and how the process works. But going forward, I think it'll go much more quickly than we've all been used to. That's our hope.
Switching back, final question on the Bear Branch Research Forest Project. Any idea when construction contract may be tendered? What is there any wild guess yet, or?
I don't know if Eric or Mike, if you can have any idea. I mean, it's definitely not anytime soon. Yeah, I think we're still in the phase of obviously evaluating what they've come up with for improving the situation along research in the area of the high school. But I think there's still some determinations to be made as to whether it meets certain cost benefit analysis and other things for funding going forward.
Yeah, what I remember, it was at least 2025 before any sort of construction, if we were to go that route.
As positive as this is that hopefully someday in 2025, there'll be a shovel put in the ground. I was mentioning to General Manager Peterson that from my observation, this is the only drainage improvement flood mitigation project that is moving forward anywhere in Montgomery County. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
I think as far as dirt being moved, it's probably.
I don't know of any personally, so.
So thanks for the good work.
Sure. it's
Keep
time.
pushing because those folks that, and what we all put up, pardon me,
It's okay.
what we all put up the money for was to keep Research Forest open so that we could get to that $3.2 billion worth of taxable real estate, our malls, our hospitals, our medical facilities, entertainments, restaurants, and so forth. So the access needs to be improved to that. And the quicker we can move to show the residents and our taxpayers some improvement to this, the better off we're all gonna be.
Just like one more thing I wanted to add on is, you know, we want in the near term, show you where we are planning, we need to work through the logistics, but there will be probably the late October, November timeframe. Essentially a presentation to the participating buds in that project. You know, where we're at, what the feasibility study results show, updated anticipated inundation maps and modeling, et cetera. Get you informed on the result of that feasibility study. So that is in the works, and there'll be more to come once we figure out date and logistics for that.
Thank you.
Sure. While I'm in front of you, I was gonna just share one more thing with you. I know we often talk about vandalism and trespass and things like that at Bear Branch. You all paid for a portion of installing this salt box that you see, and the new lid.
Yeah.
And
Oh, my gosh.
we fortunate enough to.
A couple of months ago too.
Look at that corner.
They pried it
With
open.
a crowbar, you think, or what?
Luckily, they didn't get it all the way open, but you can see they bent it up pretty good, and we're gonna have to try to.
Did they build a
50
fire on
years
top of
old.
it?
Looks like they did.
Yeah, that's
I'm
exactly.
gonna say that doesn't look like explosives, but
And so two of the realities are, one, it's on the back side of the dam, it's on the upstream side,
Mhm.
and our cameras are on the downstream side because that's the only place we can keep them concealed and hide. You know, the other thing is it happens at night. And so the cameras don't necessarily pick it up that well, even if they were on the downstream side. But I will say we've had recent conversations with the game wardens. And we plan to have conversations with the sheriff's office and perhaps the township rangers about more regular visits and actually setting some examples. I think if we set a few examples, we might start to have an impact.
And some of the borderline property there, in subdivision that's gated, is there, I can't think of the name of it. Carlton, yeah, that one. Do we need to talk with some of that management about getting some sort of access to put more cameras up to be able to monitor it?
You know, we've had that discussion. It's been tossed around previous years. I think visited at your recommendation, you know, but it's certainly something we could explore.
I know that the intent of this new manway is access, quick access and full access. Is it feasible to put like a grate over it, you know, even just made out of rebar or something to prevent?
We can take more measures, as you know, vandals can get through just about anything. One of the main drivers for putting this in was safety. The old lid would open up, there was nothing to prevent someone that's 14 feet deep. If someone were to fall, could be in serious trouble. It usually has water within it if it's at the surface water elevation of the lake. And so when you open it, number one, it's harder to open. They didn't get it open, thank God, this time. But also, once you get inside, there's a grate and there's a catch
Oh, good.
mechanism. Yeah,
Okay.
that was all part of the process.
Okay.
So not ready to move on to the next page, but the relevant information, I think, on this
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Where they're talking about what they can see with the
Perhaps
cameras.
they can
and
get
what
a
they
camera.
can't see.
Right.
Get a camera there and
Mhm.
you got a grate over it like they do with the pipes that So that
Well-
copper pipes don't get stolen.
It looks like the cameras aren't really being that effective, just from what I read, unless I've read it wrong. Or,
We may not have shared with this much some of the pictures that we had last month, but we actually have some pretty good photos. The hard thing is tying that photo to a particular individual. I mean, we've got some clear photos
Mhm,
of them on site.
mhm. But is law enforcement looked at them?
We're working with,
Mhm.
we're working on them. So we're gonna, in fact, we had, and I had a discussion this morning about some ideas that we're gonna pursue. We are engaging law.
Do you have a sign that says you're under video surveillance?
We don't have that one.
Because sometimes that's a chilling
Yeah.
effect.
That will,
You know, if you come in and they see these, they don't maybe know they're there, so they're just traipsing in to do damage. But if they see a sign saying smile, you're on video. There is a
Start
chill.
looking
There's
for
a
them
chill.
to
Oh,
disable.
that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You do that and then they go, okay, well.
Oh, yeah, we can fix that.
You know,
Hide it well.
they're hidden pretty well right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 16, receive an update on SJRA-led Spring Creek Detention Study. Mr. Hildebrand?
So no real update this month on that. Next public meeting's not gonna be till March, April timeframe next year. One thing we do plan to bring to you at probably next month's meeting is I've talked to Matt Barrett, who's the project manager for that, for the SJRA. And providing some sort of simple update, similar to the way we do with the Bear Branch. Probably not something we do every month, but I don't think we've provided kind of the schedule status, billing invoice status, be all possibly ever. Something that we were thinking about early today, and him and I were talking about to try to get some sort of update to the partners for that.
Thank you. Agenda item 17, Attorney's Report, Mr. Yates.
Nothing on the attorney's report today.
Thank you. Any off the cuff comments about the state's attorney's Senate, or you want to stay away from that?
Stay away from that.
I think that's, yeah.
Back and
Yeah, even as I was saying that, I thought, no, we
No,
don't want
better
to
not
go
go
there.
there.
You know, put you on the spot there, Brian. I apologize. Agenda item 18, received or act on general manager's report, pages 24 through 31 of our meeting packet.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to point out a couple things, nothing major. Other than what we've done with the budget and things, I wanted to point out, Jim's last day with WWA was last Thursday officially. So we'll have, you'll have opportunity to say goodbye and reach out to him. We're planning a kind of a public reception here in the next month or so. Probably be after hours, someday during the week. So we'll be doing that. In the packet and what you're seeing in the news, you've probably seen reports of different municipalities talking about their drought restrictions, drought contingency restrictions, or increased restrictions over the last 60 days or so. I'm happy to report that the Woodlands has not had to do that. We don't plan to now. We've had a little bit of rain. It looks like the hotter weather is behind us. And, you know, a lot of that's due to the long range planning that was done over the last decade or so. You know, as we talked about earlier, 50% of your water is from the lake. And if it were not, then those wells that we talked about earlier would be making up 100% of the difference, or the other 50%. And if that were the case, then we absolutely would probably be in a greater drought contingency plan. So
So we didn't go to level 2 or, I thought we,
you essentially live in two.
yeah, that's
Um,
okay. That's always, I'm supposed to
think that-
water on Tuesday and him on Thursday.
Correct.
whatever.
Correct. And that, I think decision was made almost 10 years ago, I believe, and that's been in place and, you know, works pretty well. Not everybody follows it, but we try to keep people in line to a certain degree. That's throughout, stage 2. Stage 3 and 4 would be something more significant, where there's the significant water restrictions that would be mandatory.
You've given us a copy of that. I just wanted to be sure we were in 2, because that's what I remember.
And essentially it has to do with well run times and the lake levels. Those are kind of two different pieces of it, but you're in good shape. So you also see in the news, there's lots of talk about water and sewer rates in other municipalities right now, bond referendums. There's a lot of talk around the region about things like that, as you've considered those same things yourself. We continue to get several customer praises on staff interaction. I think it's fantastic. Really, we're wanting to celebrate those things as our folks interact with the consumers and customers. So I love hearing those things. I did want to pass it on to Tori to talk a little bit about the public communication outreach.
Ms. Llewellyn, please take the floor.
So if you turn to page 29, you'll see the report. And we're in the fourth quarter this month of focusing on the value of water, and kind of what Eric was saying, a lot of the concerns are drought and the fine irrigation schedule. Now that people's bills are higher, they're starting to pay attention to them, and we have a lot of information on the back of our bill that we want people to get to see. But they're also getting information from social media, confusing us with other providers and having concerns. So our main thing is to address those misinformations and concerns. We already have several pieces going out now, but we just did a redesign of the back of the bill and an article on how to understand your water bill, kind of trying to brand ourselves and have a clear message and let our customer know that this is the Woodlands water.
Let me
So
ask you something about
Yes.
this page. When you've got what we are hearing.
yes,
Is that internal or is that an external thing that we put out?
right. What we're hearing, this is just what we're hearing from customers, either emailing or calling. in.
Right, so that's an
It's
internal thing.
yes.
This is not something that we published and put
No,
out.
we haven't
Okay,
published it.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. So if you turn the page, it's to our website. In August, we have received the highest month of page views and visitations. So we're seeing a progressive positive line of what we're putting out. We're driving customers to our website and making it easy for them to find information and navigate our website. We're also still pushing out our weekly emails, and we recently changed it to Woodlands Water Weekly.
Very
So
cool.
yes, we actually got that. We did a contest where people could submit things. We got over about 100 submissions. So it was a really fun way to see if people are actually reading our weekly newsletters that we send out and also engaging with our customers. The next page is just what we do. So it's some examples of our marketing. We have the community impact, the Chronicle, and the Woodlands magazine that we submit articles and graphics to. And last, our Water Smart tool. It's so important. It's the best tool for customers to support and conservation. So if you hear guys talking about high water usage or why are my rates so high, please push them to Water Smart. So yes.
All the dog walkers and all the people I run into in my neighborhood, I tell them, have you signed up for water?
Yes.
And then I do get occasionally, what's that?
Yeah,
And I said, you've got to sign up for that.
yeah,
Yes.
And they said, but why should I? And I said, well, one time I had a broken toilet, okay? And it was just cycling, right? I actually got a message says, we think you have a leak. And sure enough, I started looking around and I found it was a broken, the fixture. But it was that quick. I mean, if I'd gone away for a couple of days vacation or something, who knows what would have happened?
Exactly. And we give alerts when people do go off to vacation.
Yeah.
Just in case. So it is a really great tool. So far, we have about 34% of residential customers signed up for it. Just 34.
Yeah.
So we're still
That is
pushing
good.
for it. Yes.
We'll get there.
We will, especially if you guys tell people we push forward out events, so we'll get there eventually. And speaking of events, we have our outreach calendar. It's really, we encourage you guys to come to it as directors. That way you guys can interact with who lives in the Woodlands. A great way to meet people who work at WWA and just putting a face to a name. Just like you guys were seeing in the packet, recognizing some of our employees here is a great way to say who we are, not just Woodlands Water, but you can call Carlos or you can call Diane and they'll help you. So it's a really good outreach program. I always go to them. It's really fun. And I just encourage you guys to go as well.
do we keep a estimated total of the people that attend?
The outreach program?
Yeah, like the invasive species workshop and the community gardening day, which have happened?
We don't, because it's typically in a booth, so there might be 1,000 people that come and there are only 20 people visit us per se, so we can't keep a record of that, see how many people are coming and how many people interact with us, but.
I think just the visual though helps, they
Yeah.
might be walking by and they go, oh, isn't that nice? Yeah.
I've actually done that kind of thing before, and it helps to keep the numbers. And we can talk about later why. Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely
Mhm.
start doing that, because.
I mean, you just hashtag. I mean, it's not a definite, but you've got a general idea of how effective
Yes,
that is.
how many people are coming.
Yeah.
So we can definitely add that. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Appreciate your help. Okay, received the trustees report. General Manager Peterson and myself can fill in any holes that you may have. Make a change on page 33 if you haven't already done that to 5 p.m. And we had, meeting minutes are excellent, but I'm not sure that they fully capture the depth of the discussion that we had about the AC lines. And we've had a similar discussion here today.
The straw poll of the trustees to determine the level of support. What did that do? I mean, I may have read the results and I just don't remember did y'all do that or you're gonna do it?
That was,
Here it is right here.
some discussion.
34.
that's what we're talking about. That was for the discussion at the MUD level.
Okay, and so that's the
To come
straw,
back,
poll,
and
and
that's
we
what
haven't,
just did.
but we didn't vote,
We
did
didn't
we?
vote as a particular. That was the question to Meeks, Mr. Meeks, to say, do you have enough, can you understand our position or our
Concerns.
position on
So
this
would we
matter,
be-
which is totally fractured, right?
Would
It's
we be-
everybody's everywhere.
Would we be voting on it next time?
Well, it really isn't a vote.
Okay.
It's just
We're
a,
providing guidance, I think.
Right.
just a general
Feedback.
general
Okay,
feedback.
straw
which we-
poll, is-
which we've
yeah,
done.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I
Okay,
think they're saying to us that they're proceeding with the 3.5 million over 4 years, but we asked them for more specifics on both the money and the timing and the location of the testing, the different kinds of testing. And that,
And in order to answer those three things, they need to hire someone to help.
I don't know that I agree with what you just said, Dale, that I don't think that the decision has been made to go ahead, did they? Because we wanted to know if there were.
they estimated that the cost was, what they've currently done would be 3.5 million. And that they would be, that's in their notes here, they would be estimated to be 4 years for completion. But we asked them, that testing, for example, in the town center could be done quicker and much faster than this 4 years. That the 4 years is not system wide.
I don't know if anybody wants to talk about this, but I can think of a way to compromise the two ideas. And I don't know that we need to talk about it now, but the way to work it out. So if anybody cares, I can tell you what I think.
Talk to.
I'll talk
General
to you.
Well, I have a question because it says here that, for example, on the AC water lines, the material for the water line break on Lake Robbins Drive 2 years ago was PVC and not at best as concrete. So how does that fit into that plan of testing if it has nothing to do with the AC concrete that's mainly PVCs that are breaking around the town center?
I believe that it was just Mr. Shackelford saying, please accept my apology. I made a mistake.
Right, right.
What
I'm saying,
being is
there
that
might
that
be-
break was significant,
Right,
an outcome to those businesses.
right,
So
but that
whether
was.
it's AC
based
or
on-
PVC, it doesn't really matter. The point being is.
Well,
that
will the testing involve PVC testing as well?
Not at the moment.
So it's really the PVCs that are breaking and not
That's
asbestos?
just that one. No, AC is breaking a lot faster.
That was also a bit unique, if I remember correctly. Wasn't it a bell a deflection?
That one I didn't.
Chris was here.
Was it
They-
curved in the
Northway.
pipe or something?
There was wasn't there they were either opening joints to make a small deflection and that it didn't bell up properly or
And
something.
it
I
caused the
don't know.
PVC to break?
Caused it to pop.
That was the Northway one last month or in July. I don't know about.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know the specific on this one.
Yeah.
In fact,
You're right.
Last
What's
week,
that other one?
End of last week, there was a AC line that broke at South Milvin, right around the corner. It was pretty significant. It was, folks were out for a good 6 to 8 hours. Not in the metro, it was down the street.
Is that where their coupon is from?
Yes, I presume so. They do. I know that, I suggested, that while it's broken, if it is AC, let's go pull whatever we were gonna pull, a section, 10 feet, whatever it is. And so that, I believe they've done that.
So for testing,
For testing.
For future we don't know what we're testing, how we're testing, who's
oh, since you've pulled it out, might as well
correct.
send it off for testing.
No, we don't know yet how to do
Oh,
that.
okay.
So let's collect, that's what I've instructed our team to do too, on our lines,
Retain it.
is retain it.
Collect,
We have ours are much smaller diameter than theirs.
so collect the sample.
I'm just saying bag it
Right.
and tag it and let's load it up
Right.
at the field office. And then once the consultant's on board and we understand better of what the testing is going to be, how it's going to be conducted, who we're going to send it to, all those various things, then we can start systematically identifying this data, getting some data from, or get some information from them. So.
I was a little surprised last evening learning that that coupon and that piece of pipe was manufactured in Mexico. Theoretically, they're all made to national standards,
We were-
AWWA standards, ASTM standards. Sometimes yes, sometimes maybe
Right.
not so much.
Was
You know,
Bill's-
just never know, you know, and I think that's another illustration about with asbestos cement is that years before the product became, what's the right word, Eric? Undesirable or replaced by unfashionable and PVC came along, that the industry was going out of business. They couldn't get it manufactured in the US. And so they went to places like Egypt, Mexico, and other international locations who still manufactured without OSHA oversight in their manufacturing processes.
I had to replace 4 toilets in my house because they were made in Vortens. Vortens, I don't know if you know about it, but in Houston, people would go away for vacation and they'd come back with 6 to 8 inches of water in their house. And what happened was the bowls would catastrophically fail. And the reason being is they hadn't properly been fired. So the ceramic would just shatter. And of course, if you're gone on vacation, you'd come back, open the door, and then water come out. And this happened in Houston, and it happened to us one time. We were standing there, all of a sudden, all the water was coming through the roof in the garage. I happened to be home when mine failed, so I started doing research on it because inside and online you can see Vortens, the stamp and everything, when it was made and everything. Well, that particular lot was made in Mexico. And
I'm saying bipolar. You're saying that's your message?
American Standard now.
American Standard.
Yeah, but so I went up and down the street, warned everybody, and everybody was built 2000, 2001. Everybody on my street had Vortens toilets in them. And I said, well, humor me, just put those little blue dyes in there. And they did, and you could see the lines in starting to crack in the ceramics.
Wow.
Every single house on that street had to have it replaced. So the point about having manufactured overseas can create a lot of problems.
So it was Kohler neighbor.
Kohler was okay.
You are a
Because I
very
got
good
Kohler in a
neighbor.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
American Standard. I'm scared now. Don't buy cheap.
Okay. Anything else on the trustees report? Good. No need for special closed session. Discussion of future matters on agenda. You want to do social media?
For me.
Social media?
Will they have any more updates on the testing? Like putting it beyond.
If they did, I think that'd be in their standard report, right? The SJ.
What's specific social media? What was it that you want to put on?
You know, what are we doing, or can we run an ad in there in conjunction with SJRA? But we can talk about it when I give you the compromise.
Very good. If there's no further business, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for your participation.